welcome to the Sketchbook Revival online workshop. I'm Karen Aubin, the creator of this annual event, and here we are in the 4th year. If you're here for the first time, welcome, and if you're back for some more inspiration, it's so wonderful to have you here with us. So here we are to fill up our pages, create art inspired by these wonderful artists who join us to teach us, share with us their passions, and help us to try new things, stretch and grow, get out of our comfort zone, experiment, play, and have a lot of fun doing it. And here we are joined by Shelley Klammer from Canada. Hi, Shelley.
Hi, Karen.
And it's so wonderful to have you here. Shelley has been here before, so some of you might remember her. But, and I'm a big fan, so I'm so happy she's back again after, I've missed having her, so I'm really delighted. And I'd love to formally introduce her so for those of you who don't know her can get a little bit more of an understanding of her amazingness. So as I said, I've been a fan of Shelley's for many years, and she's such a resource for all things related to inner healing. And what I especially love about her approach is how she incorporates the expressive arts modalities as tools for self-discovery. She's an online therapist who supports creative women to heal unfinished emotional business from the past. She's also an educator with the International Expressive Arts Therapy Association. She supports women to authentically self-express through spontaneous art and writing practices as a way to anchor self-safety, self-confidence, and self-love. So we're in for a treat to have all of her gifts with us and to be guided by her in a really interesting and unique session that I'm excited about. It's called The History and Practice of Automatic Drawing. So we're going to learn a lot, I think, today with her. And really to do this session, you need your sketchbook, of course, and then just some simple drawing tools. She's recommending a brush pen, a black brush pen, and a graphite pencil, possibly without the wood, like a woodless one. But really you can use whatever you have, because I don't have a woodless pencil, I have a regular one. And I don't have a black brush pen, I have other colors, but she said that's okay. But she'll be giving us more tips in a minute. So Shelley, I would love it if you could start us off by giving us a little bit of insight into your work with the expressive arts and how that work fits into a practice and how you help your clients and all that good stuff.
Okay, thank you, Karen. I'm so happy to be here. It was so fun to be a part of the very first Sketchbook Revival and just see your community explode and get to know your community. I'm still in the Facebook group 4 years later, and I just it's just so fun to see what everybody does. And I often check in, and this is such a gorgeous community. So happy to be back. Thank you so much. And as for today's practice of automatic drawing, as you know, I do a lot of different spontaneous practices, and I change them up quite often. Like sometimes I'll do a really long one, sometimes I'll do a short one, sometimes I'll fill a sketchbook, sometimes I'll take a year or two on one thing. And so this practice is something fairly new for me. It's kind of like, I guess, what we would call intuitive drawing now, intuitive drawing and painting. Back in the Surrealist days in the 20s and 30s, 1920s and 1930s, they called it automatic drawing and automatic painting. And there's some parameters to it. And so I prepared a little art history lesson for you because I know you're an art history major, and you had asked me to show some examples of automatic drawing because that was a very long time ago, the Surrealist period, and not everybody might be familiar with it. However, I had so much fun. I love making slideshows these days, and so I put together some examples of what it is so people can have an idea of how to proceed. And that said, you asked me a little bit about myself, and just I love exploring all kinds of spontaneous practices because I think that they help us to tap into our deeper unconscious mind. And so when we go below the surface of our social self, oftentimes there's pain there and there's rejected parts of self, and that's kind of the hard part, and that's what I do as a therapist. But underneath that is our authentic self and also our authentic style as artists. So this practice today is really going to help people tap into their authentic style as an artist. I'm going to demonstrate that in my slideshow. So yay! If you're ready, I'll just share my screen. Okay. All right. So this little slideshow. It's just 12 slides, just to introduce people to the practice of automatic drawing. And I love this quote by Andre Breton. It's, "Surrealism, such as I conceive of it, asserts our complete nonconformity." And don't we just all want to be that as artists, nonconformists? And so what is surrealism? It's the merging of the real and dream worlds, sort of the conscious and the unconscious mind. And so the Surrealist movement, it began as a literary group in the 1920s, a writing group, and it was founded by the poet Andre Breton. And it's rooted in the psychoanalytic writings of Sigmund Freud, and later Carl Jung, who I'm a big fan of as a depth-oriented therapist. He brought forward these ideas as well, and he did a lot of spontaneous artwork himself. So armed with Freud's theories on the unconscious mind, Breton sought to create a revolutionary artistic movement that could release the masses from society's rational order. And in doing this, he hoped to merge the real and the dream worlds. So soon the Surrealist group expanded to include other forms of art aside from literature. And due to the great successes of artists such as Salvador Dali, it would become increasingly associated with the visual arts. And it's really interesting because 25 years ago, I found this book. It's still available in the market today. It's called The Surrealist Book of Games. And I was looking for literature on intuitive art way back when, and that was about the only book that was available, and that's how I learned about automatic drawing. So this is one of my favorite artists. His name is Jean Miro, and of course we all know him. He's a very famous Spanish artist, and he expressed his childlike sense of play by experimenting without limitation. And so he was a part of the early Surrealism movement, and he was best known for, which the early Surrealism movement was best known for art and writing that incorporated the juxtaposition of uncommon imagery. And he was also, because he lived to be 100 years old, he also took part in abstract expressionism, which is sort of more of a subjective emotional expression. And that originated in New York. And so what we're going to practice today is automatic drawing, and it's an expression of the unconscious mind. And so automatic drawing is one of the major contributions of the Surrealist art movement, and automatic drawing was practiced by many prominent artists of the 1920s, mostly Surrealists, including Jean Miro, Salvador Dali, Jean Arp, and Andre Breton. Let's see if I'll move the screen there. So here's one of Jean Miro's automatic drawings. He was influenced by other Surrealist artists, and while his creations were never completely non-objective, you could always see some objective things in his art, as you know, Karen, but he was always trying to dismantle the notion of representation. And so to avoid being overly representative, he adopted the Surrealist method of automatic drawing. And so here are some of his automatic drawings. And so the directive here that we're going to practice today is to draw randomly across the paper without any rational thinking. And I think these are so cool. And as I go along here, I've done some automatic drawings alongside the finished artwork, and I think it's really interesting to see how reflective they are, because I can really see his paintings in these drawings. And so here's Salvador Dali. He was one of the greatest Surrealist artists of the 20th century. Most of us know Salvador Dali, and he also created automatic drawings. And so you can see his dreamscape here on the right, and you can see his automatic drawing. And I think it's really reflective. You can see his original style in the drawing as it reflects in the finished piece, right? And here's Jean Arp, and I think, again, it's very reflective. He was a French-German artist and poet known as a founding member of Dadaism. And so you can see, again, his shapes and his lines really carry over into his paintings. And here is André Masson, and he was a French artist whose work was cited as the bridge between Surrealism and abstract expressionism. And again, you can just feel the similar feeling between the drawing and the painting. And I know you have a lot of very accomplished artists in your community, Karen. So this is just, when you really think about it, these famous artists, they use these automatic drawings as a warm up for their finished work. So this is something to have on hand for those who really like to do the really finished work, to have a warm up sketchbook. And here's Max Ernst. He was a German painter, a sculptor, graphic artist, and poet. And he was a pioneer of the Dada movement. And so you can see the quality of his line here and here, really similar. So it's a real translation from sort of warming up and relaxing and then moving into a more finished piece. So it's just a nice precursor to consider automatic drawing as a warm-up exercise. So here are the directives that we're going to practice today. This whole purpose of this is to loosen up your drawing style and your painting style. And so number one, we're going to start drawing lines without thinking. Number two, we're going to experiment with mark making and different drawing tools. We're going to do two today, the brush pen and the woodless pencil. However, if you just have a Sharpie or a ballpoint pen or an ordinary pencil, that's fine. And today we're going to try to fill up pretty much the entire page of our sketchbooks if we can. It's just, you know, as you can see, there's just some guidelines, but you don't have to. And so now we're going to, let it flow. So one interesting thing about automatic drawing is that it's not meant to be representational, but because it's reflecting the unconscious and the deeper self, you go into kind of a relaxed, almost trance-like state when you do this kind of drawing. It does, you know, you might see vague images in the chaotic background of lines and shapes. So we're not going for representation, but, you know, you might end up seeing something in your drawing which is intriguing to you, and that's fine. But the intention is not to sort of create a representational piece. So it's the intention is abstract, but then of course things emerge, just as when we look at clouds, we see things in the clouds, we see things in our drawings too, right? Little art history lesson for Karen and everybody.
Yeah, that was so interesting and inspiring. You did a brilliant job of piecing that together, and I feel like I really have an understanding of what automatic drawing is all about now. So thank you so much. I'm very excited to see how we're going to proceed.
Okay, so shall we jump right in and just go ahead? Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, so you can see this is one of my automatic drawings. And one thing I wanted to share first is what is not automatic drawing. So last year I did a doodle sketchbook, and sometimes I'm just going to bring this forward. Sometimes there's kind of confusion between doodling and automatic drawing. And so I did this was my practice last year, but you can see doodling is more structured, it's more designed, it's kind of like prettier. There's more of a design element to it. So it's also like a very, you know, relaxing practice, but it's not, in my experience, it's more illustrative, right? So we're not going to be doodling today. We're going to be actually, you know, doing more sort of a kind of a raw kind of line and more of a free form thing. So I just wanted to clarify that before we get into it, because I do know you have a lot of illustrators in your community, and I just want to invite anybody who really does a very, very detailed, very precise work. These are some of my pen drawings, just to maybe take the opportunity to use this practice to loosen up a little more than you normally would. So it's not really structured, designed, kind of pretty doodling. It's really more freeform lines. Okay, so I also have like I have a Sharpie. We'll start with the pen. I have a thicker sort of brush pen here. And I also have a really, really super thin brush pen for, you know, if you want to get really refined about it. But some people just do automatic drawings with ballpoint pens or Sharpies or what have you. So basically how you start is just with a line. So just start with one sort of free form line and then just kind of build on it. And the reason I like the brush pen is because you can make it thicker and thinner, and you know, you can go in with different kinds of pens. But the ultimate aim here is to, the way the surrealists did it was they tried to almost get into kind of like a trance-like state. And so it's like going very, very, very deep, 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 deep inside. So it's like you almost don't really know what you're going to do. There's nothing deliberate about it. And so whatever calls you, so this is just like pure, pure, pure art making, but this is the way the surrealist artists did it. And sometimes you might want to, you know, turn your book around, come at it from a different angle, start a different line, and just start to really intuitively build on each of the aspects that are calling to you. So there's really no thought involved. And I'm going to move into my really thin brush pen because I find it, I get quite a sweet sensitivity to this pen here. It's very light. And so it's really interesting because the first origins of automatic drawing were from the spiritualists, like people who went into deep meditation, and they kind of like did channeled drawing and channeled writing. And Freud picked up on this, and he really saw this as a way into tapping into the deeper mind. And I think that's why it's recommended that it be non-representational, because it's just, once you do a whole bunch of these, it starts to feel quite natural, and it's almost like you can just watch your hand working and you're not really thinking about what you're going to do next. You just watch. You just let the lines flow. And who amongst us doesn't need to loosen up their drawing style? It's really easy to get super, super tight. And so we're not really going for a pretty drawing here. We're just going for something that feels good. If you want to, you know, take your pen and really fill in a certain area. So like doodling, like structured doodling, that's quite a lot prettier than this. It's really about the deep focus. Watching your pen do what it does. Letting your hand kind of be automatic. Automatism, they called it in the spiritualist days. And this is kind of just like letting your pen roam and your mind roam. And so an interesting thing too about this is that this might be considered the most sophisticated kind of sort of intuitive drawing, in a sense, in that as children we start with scribbling, and then we kind of move to doodling as almost like a second stage where we kind of fill in the sides of our notebooks as we're in meetings or on the phone. And then this is like really kind of maybe more of an advanced, you could consider that you might spend some time really going into a deep, deep meditative state to see what wants to come. If you do a lot of these, you'll probably find that your drawing style loosens up too. And, you know, I could work 20 minutes on this, just adding lots of little details and little strokes. And it's really like, it's meditation for artists, really. And I'm almost filled my page. How about you, Karen?
Yeah, me too. I filled my page in a certain sense. I mean, like you said, I could keep going, but I've also
Yeah. So would you like to switch to the pencil now?
sure. Are you feeling ready? I could it's hard to be
I
ready.
it's hard to stop. Yeah. I could switch to pencil now just to show people how like different materials do different things. And like in my sketchbook too, I've also experimented with some color as well. So you can use different colors, you know, I've used different markers and so on. And sometimes I might even go in, you know, with a Sharpie and kind of like darken certain areas. And, you know, because this isn't like a, you know, doesn't involve any kind of thought whatsoever, any kind of planning, you could just go and go and go until your drawing is really, really, really dense, right? So there's that kind of idea too. Sometimes I get really called to kind of fill in sections and make some darker and keep some kind of wispy and light. But if you're ready to switch into the pencil, we can try that and see how that feels.
Sure.
Okay. All right. So I have a separate sketchbook from my pencil pieces. Let's get that straight. And so the pencil, I like the woodless pencil because you can sort of go on its side and you can do different kind of movements with the pencil. So see, these are my pencil ones and they look quite different, I think, than my my pen work. And they're just a different kind of a feeling to do them. And for some reason, they tend to go a little more to the representational end. I tend to see things in them rather than just mark make. So let's move on to pencil. So I like to start with the woodless pencil. I like to start kind of on the side and just draw some thick lines as a kind of a starter. And then kind of start to sharpen up the edges and add different strokes. And I think every art material, as you know, Karen, has a different kind of a satisfaction. And sometimes I'll build a whole practice just around an art material. It just not even so much a theme, but just like working and getting to know a particular kind of material. And I haven't used pencil in a really long time, actually, and I've really been enjoying these pencil automatic drawings because they just, you know, there's just so much fun with the shading. Of course, you could do it in color too. I know they have woodless colored pencils as well. I've been doing so many of these, Karen. I had like a really hard time. I had to hold on to one of my brush pens because I thought, oh, I'm going to wear it out before we meet. I had to set it aside because I couldn't stop. It was just really fun to do so many in a row.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've been really into abstract art these days. I don't know. I just really finding it intriguing. And so this is kind of a precursor to abstract painting as well. And one good trick with automatic drawing, if you want to be a little looser, is to kind of hold your pencil at the top or at the end so that you don't have as much control. So if you're finding that you're really tight, like often when we're doodling, we'll get right down to close to the paper and, you know, do this really, really, really tight kind of a drawing, which is relaxing unto itself. We need that control for the kind of high art doodling that's popular today. But for this kind of thing, you want to really kind of woe back on the grip and just let the lines have more emotion and character. How are you finding the two materials, Karen? Are you preferring one over the other?
I like them both very much. I don't have a preference yet. I love them both.
Yeah, it's that's funny for me too. I just on certain days, all I want to do is work with the pencil, and then on other days, I just want to do lots and lots of pen work. So it's just I do love them both too.
Yeah, I can see that there's like, I'm being very experimental. So I'm just like, oh my gosh, there's so much to learn about using a pencil. Like it's just coming out so organically, this curiosity, for the tool.
Yes, yes, exactly, exactly. So, you can see too, as you do more of these, you would go kind of more deeper into the trance like state. You're completely being spontaneous. You're not being sort of held to any kind of representation. And so there's something very, very satisfying and very freeing about that. So even if you like to do representative work, even just to do one of these prior, it just accesses different parts of your brain. And again, these are the, once you get into the sort of the meditative trance-like state of being very spontaneous like this, you can just continue to deepen it if you want to and keep going. Add more details. I'm getting pretty close. How about you, Karen?
I can stop at any time, honestly.
Well, let's do a little bit more until you feel like you really like what you have.
Okay.
Because I can totally do more. I'm actually really liking what I'm doing here.
And in terms of like speed of, do you think there's no thought around how fast or slow you do this? Or what do you think about that?
Well, I think it's a meditative process, but the aim is to kind of not stop, like not to stop and look at it. Like typically when you're doing kind of more of a composed piece, you would stand back or, take a break and take a look at it. What does it need? It's not really like that with this process. So it's just as long as you kind of just keep drawing, that would be the best. It doesn't really matter with the speed. Just not to stop.
Got it. Okay, I'm getting closer to completion.
Yeah, you tell me when it feels right, because I mean, I could just do this on and on. I could.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's just such a nice feeling to play.
It really
just
is.
Play. Yeah, just so free. There's no end goal at all. You just have no idea where it's going to go.
And somehow being connected to those our art masters who did this, it feels very rich, that connection somehow,
Yes, and somehow it's like connecting to a lineage in a way, isn't it?
Yeah.
A lineage of practice that we kind of, in a way, in a sense, have kind of forgotten about. There's actually not like a ton of information about automatic drawing out there. It was, people who love fine art, they know about it, but it's, we've moved on. And I think it's just a wonderful form of abstract intuitive drawing. My own personal sort of intuitive drawings are quite representational. I often draw figures and things like that, but I'm just really getting into the abstract.
Exciting. I love how you're always exploring and evolving, and it's like a never-ending process for you in your own practice.
Oh, thank you. And it's so funny because when I start one practice, I get really into it. And then I've already got something else peeking in. And I always usually know what my next practice is going to be. So I have to finish these sketchbooks and then I already know what I'm going to do next.
That's wonderful though, because you're engaged and excited and you don't have that lull in between, right?
You're so right. And I really like doing different things. Like I just really enjoy exploring all kinds of different practices. I never really stick with just one.
I think you could write a book around all these different practices, oh my gosh, it could be such a resource for people.
Yeah, I think by the time my life is done, I'll have done probably, I don't know, 50 or 100 different practices. It's just really something I just always curious. I can't really sort of sit with one.
That's so, it seems so good.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
It's really
All right.
fun.
I'm feeling like I'm ready to stop. It's hard to
Okay.
believe I just said that, but it's true.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to come back on and I'll let you just take a look at mine for a minute. And then, yeah, that was super fun. Really rolled with the pencil there.
Yeah, I love seeing the variations in darks and lights and different shading versus thinner lines. And
Thank you. Oh, before I come up, I'll just show you this is my pen one. So it's a little bit just more of a field drawing of different lines. And, but then, you get with this kind of thing, you get really warmed up, right? So by the time I got to this one, and if I was to do a couple more, I would be really on a roll. So I'm coming back and I want to see what yours look like. Let's see what you did, Karen.
yes, let me show you.
Okay.
Okay, so I have them side by side. So
Oh, perfect. Oh, isn't that interesting? That feels like you to me. Like when I look at your art, doesn't it feel like you?
yeah, it does. It really does.
Yes, like when I think back on all your drawings that I've seen over the years, it's like it just feels so much like you. Isn't that neat?
That's so.
And you can even see you've got the pieces behind you, the finished pieces, and there's something of that
Wow.
in that. Yeah.
That's really amazing. Well, I just want to invite everyone to please come share your pages in the Facebook group so that we can see what you guys have done with this. I think, and share your impressions. And I feel like, okay, I'm hooked. That's all it took. I'm like, I'm in.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't take too much. It's just you try it once. That's how I felt too. I'm just like, I'll have no problem filling these sketchbooks. No problem at all.
Yeah. It's wonderful. How have you been doing this for a while now, or it's a newer?
A couple months, yeah. And like I said, I ordered when we did a pre-chat, I guess about a month or two ago, and so I ordered some fresh materials, and I was just so into it. I thought, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have no pencils left. I'm gonna have no pens left. I have to stop. I have to go back and save at least one pen and one pencil for this demo.
That's so funny, Shelley. Well, I feel like what a special opportunity for us to learn from you. This is like your new practice, and to have this chance for you to share it with us. It feels very precious and inspiring. And yeah, I'm really excited about it myself. And I look forward to seeing how others feel about it too. It's just something different and very, yeah. So I'm just so curious, like what else, like what will you learn about your style and how much can you loosen up and what's going to happen if you just keep experimenting with this? It just seems fascinating.
Yeah. And it was interesting because we were talking before we got on about deepening into the practice. And so how I've been deepening into this practice is like, this is the kind of thing for me that I don't, it's very intriguing. I don't get bored with it, and it's very freeing. So as I sort of expand and expand and expand, I think the best way to deepen into this practice is to like say, I'm going to sit down for a couple of hours and I'm just going to draw and draw and draw and draw. And that's the way the surrealist artists did it. They did a real long practice period of just loosening up really massively. And so, sometimes with the practice, especially one that's not hard like this, like it's not concentrative, right? It's just more loose and free. I think deepening into the practice would be really helped with just sort of like doing at least one extended session. And so even if people, want to try one drawing, or they want to try a whole bunch, and kind of like what they did at the beginning or what they did at the end, they're kind of different. Like you go through a bit of a journey. And I've done a lot of spontaneous, authentic movement and dance as a part of just my personal practice. I don't teach it. It's just for me. And I know when I do weekend workshops or day-long workshops, you start in the morning and your body's all stiff, right? And you kind of just don't, sorry about the sirens, I'm downtown. And you kind of just can't quite get your movements going. And then by the end of the day, I know I feel just so fluid and so free, like as free as a bird, like every muscle is warm, every muscle is loose. And this kind of drawing is like that. It's like dancing with a pen. And so the longer you do it, the more nimble you're going to get, right? Mm-hmm. So, to deepen into this practice, I would recommend like a long session and see what comes. Like, see if you can do 10 pieces of paper or 20 pages in your sketchbook, and see what it feels like from the beginning to the end. Are you looser? And so that's what the masters did. They would do a lot in a row. Okay.
That's a wonderful tip for us. Thank you so much. So I know, I could keep going on and on, but it's time to wrap up. So I know you have, you do so much. Also, you offer many online courses and help people in different ways to explore expressive modalities that are for healing and different opportunities for that. So please check out Shelley's website. By the way, it's in her bio, and look at all the rich offerings that she has. But you also have a free gift for people to work with you more, who want to work with you some more. Could you share with us what that is?
Yeah, so it's my Dive Deep art journal course, and it's just an invitation. It's actually a walk through a lot of my spontaneous art, how I started out kind of stiff and careful, and I don't know if I can be spontaneous, because I was a gallery artist prior to moving into the spontaneous realm, and so just a walk through a picture gallery walkthrough of my different sketchbooks and how I gradually loosened up over time. And so it explores a lot of different practices, a lot of different things I've done. It offers a lot of suggestions for starting your own spontaneous art journal. And like I know I mentioned at the beginning, and I've really come to know and love your community, being a part of the Facebook group since year one. And I know there's a lot of very dedicated artists in your group. And so there's a lot of practicing that happens there, and there's a lot of dedication. And so I think where I would fit into your community would be to say, hey, if you want to loosen up, come on over here, that kind of thing. If you want to take a break from the deep dedication to, producing art that's very, very finished, expressive art is more with an aim to loosen up and tap into that unconscious mind, and, find out what's down there for healing, and also find out what is true about ourselves, because underneath all of the pain and all of that, once that's healed, then all of a sudden all of this authentic, original kind of work can come through. And that's what we saw with your drawing and my drawing, is something of your, original style came through those automatic drawings. And I feel that some of my original style came through as well. Yeah.
Beautiful. Oh, thank you for all that. It's just wonderful. So the free gift link is right below the video. Go ahead and click on that. That's such a generous offer. It's a fabulous course. I've actually taken it, so I can I can vouch for it. So I recommend clicking on that and experiencing Shelley's wonderful course. And that's the end of our session. So I thank you again, Shelley, and I look forward to seeing everyone on the next session. Bye.
Bye. Thanks, Karen. ExpressiveArtWorkshops.com